Welcome. I'm back. Just a quick recap. Last time I spawned in my underwear next to a nice large town that seemed to have everything one could wish for, and even some things that nobody in their right mind would wish for, including an apparent group of cultists with cells that they set up to confine any travelers that they may waylay on the road for their dark and mysterious purposes. And assuming that not everyone was part of the cult, I went ahead and gave the town a new bed so they could increase their population. And in return, I stuffed my pockets with supplies and then blazed a trail here to my future homestead where my initial storage and manufacturing center will be. And in picking up where I left off last time, it's now late afternoon, bordering on evening, and obviously it is pouring rain. I had planned to take a nice rest before the baddies come out to play, but after having a little while to think about it, I won't be able to rest knowing that those cultists are still out there and quite capable of imprisoning innocent folks on the road. So, I think this situation absolutely requires a really futile and stupid gesture be done on somebody's part, and I'm just the guy to do it. So instead of taking a snooze in my warm, comfortable, and absolutely soaked bed and waking up in a bright, new, and perfectly safe day, I'm headed back to the town of Twin Spires, which I decided to call the town because naming it Twin Peaks would probably get me sued. And despite the monsters I'll meet on the road and the fact that I have no helmet and the armor I'm wearing has all the defensive strength of a graham cracker, I'm going to sneak into the town under cover of darkness and remove the bars to those cells. It's not a permanent solution, but it is the start. And of course, the faint trail I carved out of the wilderness to aid me in going back and forth without getting lost is working out exactly as I wanted it to, and if it were not for the rain and the encroaching darkness, this would be a very pleasant stroll to do some very unpleasant but necessary work. While it's not quite night, I fully expect it to be dark enough that all sorts of unhelpful mods would be spawning in the forest right now, but I'm not seeing any, and though my saying something may have just jinxed me. Getting back into town should not be a problem, as I'm pretty sure that only some of the townsfolk are cultists, and I haven't done anything to warrant any action by the town watch, so getting in should be easy peasy. The real concern is whether anyone will be in the areas I plan to go into and work. Good evening, Constable. Lovely evening, innit? Nothing to see here. I'll just be moving along. I'm pretty sure one of the buildings is up here in the high rent district. Bingo. Okay. Now I just stroll in here and casually act like I belong here. Hello? Anyone home? Sweet. I'm batting 1,000. This is probably not what folks are talking about when they say go ahead and help yourself to the bar. Nor is it what they're referring to when they say to lower the bar. Oh, wither roses. Another clue that these guys are up to no good. Hold on. They don't need that chest anymore either. Or this one. One set of cells down, one to go. Well, in for a penny, in for a pound. If I took 2 of their chests, I might as well take the rest. And if these guys are doing bad stuff, taking the brewing stand makes it that much harder to do bad stuff. Anybody looking? The coast is apparently clear. Okay, the next one's down here by the multi-story pothole. Apparently there are no beds in these two buildings, which is good, as the cultists are probably off sleeping in another building, so I have them all to myself. Shh, be weddy quiet. I'm stealing Iwan Bawas. I don't know how many of you have seen a Looney Tunes cartoon, especially the originals. Space Jam doesn't count.
Excuse me, just locking the windows and doors. We don't want any non-cultists to accidentally get in here and see what's going on, eh? Hey, wait, nudge, nudge.
Well, that's two. Now to make my escape, but it's still raining, and undoubtedly it's dark enough to spawn some pretty nasty customers out there.
It's all secure. You won't find the droid you're looking for here. Have a good night.
See ya, sucker! Well, while I'm here, I might as well go empty the chest of swords that I found. I think I'll need them for the walk home. Is it this one? Or is it this one? Yeah, I think it's this one. Apparently, my memory about swords is still pretty sharp. Hello, what's this? It's nighttime and they have an empty bed? Well, I don't mind if I do. Good night. Well, I totally lucked out on that run. I expected that I would have to hack and slash my way through hordes of baddies on my way into town, and then wait until the locals were all asleep to do my work, and then hack and slash my way back. And all in a steady downpour. But there were no baddies on the way in, and the locals are apparently away on vacation for the moment, and I got a nice dry patch to sleep on, and so the trip home promises to be a sunny stroll through the forest, and I think I need to go buy some lotto tickets before my luck wears off. So on this mission, besides giving the cultists a bloody nose, I got my early game achievements for sleeping in a bed and killing the first monster of the game. So a little over 70 minutes into the game, so yeah, I'm not rushing through this. Everything will happen in due time. Okay, here we are at the start of the trail, so it's time to go home and get this party started. And by party, I mean a whole lot of yard work, digging, dust, pollen, dried weeds, and plenty of dirt. My nose is already itching inside and out just thinking about it. home again, jiggity jig. Okay, let me dump the goods out of my backpack here. Duh, it's kind of hard to hold a torch if it's the handle that's burning. Okay, looking at the map, I think it shows that I have almost exactly 3 chunks from here to the very edge of Londinium, eventually. So I guess I'll be building in this area here, probably with terraced fields for agriculture to the west, and a windmill, barn, and pens for livestock in the east. So when engineers do surveying, they leave all sorts of metal markers and flags in the ground to mark off boundaries and trig lines. I do the same thing, but instead of pounding a fancy nail in the ground, I just use torches. They're cheap, very visible, great for keeping baddies away at night, and just all around mighty useful. And I'm going to set this one down 1 block because I think I will establish the altitude where my bed and storage is currently located as my ground level for the homestead. Everything on this little estate will be based on that, plus or minus. I'll use my 5x5x5 scale for this build, as it is a typical day-to-day type building based on the scale of the entities of the world. So nothing grand or oversized here. Yeah, I doubt I'll have as many torches laid down as I would normally like, but I should have enough to finish the task at hand. There's a certain amount of zen, at least for me, in clearing the land like this. I guess you can say that I really dig it. Oh gosh, it took me a while to warm up, but here we go. Yeah, if you've ever done much yard work in a place where it's wet, you know that you want to be careful when working on wet grass, because it gets kind of slippery, and if you're not careful, you could potentially slip and fall on your grass. Okay. Back to the task at hand. I need to focus. I need to think about what I'm doing. I need to quit bugging you. In fact, I'll leave you alone for now. Sorry, I just can't help myself sometimes. I blame the new job. You see, I started a new job about a month ago, and where I was always in an office with my team in my old jobs, this time around my team is literally scattered across Asia, North America, and Europe. Nobody's physically located with anyone else on the team, so all of our meetings are virtual. And all the usual things I used to do with coworkers in the office, like go to lunch together, go grab a coffee or a soda, or just chat and joke around a bit. I don't get to do that anymore. And since that was a traditional outlet for the dad humor, and that outlet is gone, that just leaves my family and you. So I'm sorry, but I gotta be me. Speaking of outlets, I thought long and hard about whether to include mods that add electricity to the game. I mean, I have some of them in here because there's other stuff in the mod that I'm after, but for the most part, I decided to leave electrical stuff behind. I just didn't get a charge out of it. For one thing, those mods add a bunch of extra complexity, and while I normally crave a certain amount of complexity, too much of a good thing can be bad. For example, ice cream, lying in the sun, or money. Now, I'm not entirely convinced on that last one, but it's what I heard. Still, I would like a chance to try having too much money and possibly make up my own mind on that. Anyway, my experiments with electricity mods eventually work out, but by the time I've added all the transformers, the insulators, the terminals, the wires, and whatever else may be required, it looks like a hardware store exploded and then a giant spider came along and covered it all in a wiry web. And while some cities definitely had that look in the very early 1900s, that's not really steampunky. I mean, steampunk enthusiasts are not running around with costumes festooned with wires and batteries. For them, it's all about the gears and the rotational force. Clockwork is the order of the day. Steampunk is really about a golden age of mechanical engineering. So for now, it is rotational force for the win. But there's no point in getting too picky about what is or is not steampunk, or diesel punk, or any other punk, or even any other genre for that matter. I'm no expert. I just know what I enjoy or how I want things to turn out, and that's what's guiding my design decisions. And on that point, I've always been attracted to steampunk even before it was known as such. When I was a kid, I used to love to watch movies that took place around the turn of the 20th century, and I particularly love movies like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and The Great Race, and I love to read about the early years of aviation, right up through World War I. Machines, clothes, architecture, pretty much every single aspect of life had an ornateness to it. Even simple machines and devices looked complicated because they had to add the bits here and there to make things work, and instead of trying to hide those bits, they just juiced them up by making them out of copper, brass, or some other interesting metal, and then etching, painting, or otherwise decorating everything to make it look appealing and interesting. Now, I think that level of detail adds something. But unfortunately, I grew up in a time when minimalism, or the drastic simplification of design, was the order of the day. And except for a detour in the 80s, where designers briefly added some complexity and asymmetry or other weirdness just for the sake of being different, I think the general idea of modern design makes things look plain, sterile, and boring. And now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love my smartphone, wireless communication, and of course computers, but I would love to have all of that and have it look interesting, distinctive, and detailed. And so that's what a big chunk of what brought me sniffing around steampunk is a theme for this world. Unfortunately, in most ways, I'm limited to how much detail I can add without scaling things up in a ridiculous amount, so that my character's running around in a world where average everyday doorways are 20 blocks tall. However, there's a lot of great mods out there to help me with that, and that is the beauty of modded Minecraft. It takes the foundation that vanilla Minecraft provides and builds upon it however you want. You're only really limited to your imagination and the variety of mods available to you for your preferred version of Minecraft. Speaking of themes, as I was preparing to start this series, I realized that out of a mod pack with over 200 mods in it, only a small number of them are really dedicated to adding steampunk flavor or functionality. The vast majority of them are what I would consider to be foundational, and thus would or could apply to almost any theme I would care to use. So I wound up getting diverted for a bit to create a duplicate profile of this one, and then stripping away the dedicated steampunky bits, and then adding, one by one, different mods to come up with what I think would be a great medieval or fantasy-based mod pack. And of course, you can't just slap something like that together and say, yep, that works, unless and until you actually close the hood and take her out for a test drive. And unfortunately, I'm having a really hard time stopping the test drive. I'm just enjoying that pack way too much. The create mod is still in there because there are all sorts of bits of that mod that would be applicable in almost any conceivable theme based on the past 500 or 5,000 years of history. But almost all of the Create Mod add-ons are gone, and the Create Mod itself is no longer the framework on which the rest of the pack is built. No, in this case, I use Ars Nouveau as the primary mod, and I was really surprised at how different the mod is. I mean, how much it changes the game and how much fun that could be. Some other big changes that I have are there's a lot more structure mods to choose from without breaking my theme. Lots more mob mods to choose from because, yeah, the forests and hills can be teeming with bad guys, and that's all part and parcel of a fantasy theme. In this case, the star of the mob show is Ice and Fire. Plus, I actually added a bunch of villagers that aren't villagers. Specifically, I added kobolds, ribbits, goblins, and burrowers. And so it's a nice to kind of wander around the world and find functional and friendly villages without a traditional Minecraft villager anywhere to be seen. But now it has me thinking about another traditional genre that I've always loved, the post-apocalyptic, where I can mix and match my technology and my fantasy, and all of that on the backdrop filled with ruins of a vast and shattered world. So let's see how this series fares, but I'm seriously considering spinning up 1 or 2 series on one or both of those other themes. We'll just have to wait and see. But you can help me by adding a comment about what you think about that idea. And in fact, the best thing you can do for me in general, besides watching this video, liking it, or subscribing to the channel, is to add comments. It's quick, it's free, and it can kick off some interesting discussions and trains of thoughts. Or thought. So feel free to join or start the conversation. You know, after I mentioned that bit about the post-apocalyptic theme, my mind is now racing with all the great movies and stories of my youth that kind of triggered my love for the genre, and a whole lot of deep thought, especially for a little kid. For example, when my folks were still together, we often went to the movies as a family, but that almost always meant going to the drive-in. We'd have a cooler full of drinks, including beer for my dad, a big old paper bag full of home pop popcorn, and my sister and I were curled up in the back seat in our jammies in an ocean of pillows and blankets. In fact, the first time that I can remember walking into a walk-in theater and sat in a proper seat to watch a theatrical release was when I was 10 years old. And we went there specifically to watch the original release of Star Wars in 1977. But I digress. I remember that we used to go to the drive-in quite a bit, and in most cases, those were double features. Most of the time we went, it would start with a more general family-friendly movie, and then there'd be an intermission where the lines at both the restrooms and the snack bar were prohibitively long, and then a second movie that was usually less family-friendly. And so that's where I saw Soylent Green, which is definitely not a movie you want your kid to watch unless you want to answer the endless stream of questions it triggers, and or you want to give your kid severe psychological trauma. That's also where we watched the Planet of the Apes series, the original series, and there was the original Westworld and Logan's Run, and the list goes on and on. Now, while those stories may have been kind of hard for a young kid like me to digest, I think they gave me a lot to seriously think about. And of course, I still enjoy the genre today. I mean, I loved all the Mad Max movies, new and old. I loved the new Planet of the Apes series. I actually enjoyed Waterworld and The Postman. And in fact, I've been itching to watch the Fallout series. But ever since I started work on this channel, my dedicated TV and movie watching has dropped to almost nothing. Because as much as I love watching other people's stories, I'm at a stage where I have my own stories to tell and my own adventures to live. So I would rather be doing than watching. Hopefully, you'd rather be watching than doing, or else I might find myself sitting here talking to an empty audience. Speaking of that, I would love to hear about some of your favorite genres and stories. Just post them down in the comments as well. One genre that was sorely missing when I was a kid was fantasy. I mean, there were a few, but very few, and most of those were kind of bad. The problem is that fantasy done right is really, really hard to do without a lot of the modern technology that we take for granted. And in a world where modern technology meant printers and monitors that only show black or green, well, that meant that good fantasy movies were a super mega crazy ridiculous challenge. In fact, that's why George Lucas started with episode 4 of his 9-part Star Wars saga, because it was the one that was best suited for the technology available within the budget and the era. But I will also say that I was pretty thrilled when the Harry Potter series basically opened up magic and sorcery in a whole new way, mixing classical sorcery fantasy with the modern real world. Mixing genres is also something I enjoy. Ooh, I'm nearly done laying out the initial footprint of the homestead. Of course, I could go for a simple square or rectangle, but where's the fun in that? No, in this case, I'm going more for a kind of capital H shape. I'd make a Sesame Street or Electric Company joke at this point, but strangely enough, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but it must be late, and I'm definitely tired, so I guess work will do that to you. Anyway, the basic format is a big rectangle with bits cut out of the north and south sides of the building, producing little courtyards. And I was thinking of treating the south side of the building as the entrance, but then that would mean the north side would be the back of the house. And I had planned to put a small flower garden at the back of the house, but if it's on the north side of the building, it would be mostly shaded throughout the day, and that would probably hinder the actual garden part of the space. So now I'm thinking of reversing that so that the garden is on the south side, where I'll get plenty of light, and hopefully growing stuff will thrive there. There sure is a lot of coarse dirt up here. As a builder and a designer, I do like some of the options that coarse dirt gives me, but I don't like having truckloads of the stuff in the middle of my project space. Yeah, I know that I can use a hoe on it and transform it back into regular dirt, and I might just do that, or I might find a hole or depression that needs to be filled in, and I could use the coarse dirt for that. Either way, it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. But the drab and grainy blocks don't look all that great when you have so many of them together in one place. It kind of looks dry, dusty, and kind of deserty, which I suppose is probably exactly what they were shooting for when they designed this biome. It kind of reminds me of where I grew up in Southern California. Way back in the 70s, a lot of the area had not been subdivided and paved over yet, and except for a few places that had natural springs or or just water, most of which had already been paved over by that point, the native plants and the climate was definitely deserty, very, very deserty, and there were certainly no buildings like this one that I'm building now. Not really. For one thing, very few buildings had a basement or cellar. I mean, we didn't have one, nor did I know of anyone that did have one. But of course, I knew basements existed. I mean, they're all over the place on television and in the movies. And in those cases, they were almost always a place you don't want to go because, as I saw time and time again, you can get locked down in there. And or it was a dead end where you would be forced to finally face the killer that's been after you, and or it's where the ghost or evil presence is camped out, and or it is a damp, smelly place filled with all sorts of dirty, dangerous, and potentially deadly stuff like asbestos, black widow spiders, and the mummified remains of Norma Bates. Clearly, basements were places to be avoided, if at all possible. But my personal feelings changed once I got to spend some time around actual basements. That started in the late 1970s after my parents divorced and my dad went up to live near his dad in Utah. My dad had moved into an old house that had an honest-to-goodness bona fide basement. It even had a laundry chute from the closet of the main bedroom into a basket by the washer and dryer in the basement. And my relationship with my dad being what it was, my room, such as it was down in the basement. Now, at first, this seemed like some kind of house arrest, but as I explored my new surroundings, I found all sorts of old forgotten treasures down there. I uncovered some cool work areas and supplies, and in the heat of the Utah summers, I found a nice, cool refuge where I could sit and play my video games on my old Atari 2600. And since I was an 11-year-old in a strange place with no money, no transportation, and I didn't know anyone except my little sister, and we did not get along, I wound up spending a lot of time down there playing video games, alone. Anyway, my point is that my impression of basements did a complete 180, and now I love them. I prefer them. In fact, as I'm playing now and recording this, I'm sitting in my basement. You got to remember that I live with my wife and 2 teenage girls, and so the rest of the house is painted and decorated in shades of white, pink, peach, and a kind of purplish pinkish red. So over the course of the years, I have just kind of naturally sought refuge down here with the washer and the dryer, and it has become my fortress of solitude, or perhaps more accurately, my little fortress of testosterone. And as long as I do the laundry, my little kingdom remains my own. However, I digressed a bit. My point in all of that is I've learned that basements, actual basements, can be almost anything you want them to be, and they can be mighty useful spaces. And if that is true in real life, it is even more true in Minecraft. I was going to say, Minecraft, but I guess both is true. In real life, if you have a basement, it is what it is. It would be very difficult, if not impossible, to expand your basement. And if you don't have a basement in the first place, well, you're just out of luck. And since the ground around our houses nowadays are filled with water, sewer pipes, power cables, communication lines, gas lines, and who knows what else, you can't just go around digging up your yard for any reason. And that's not the case with Minecraft. Except for the unfortunate possibility of an isolated lava pocket, it should be relatively safe to dig under your house, and you have plenty of space down there in which to expand into. And since the overworld is full of hostile mobs and unwanted guests, moving underground is a pretty practical choice unless you are frequently getting blown up or poked by crossbow bolts. I know bad things do live underground in Minecraft, and sure, but with a little light and a little care to seal off access to or from caves I find, that's not a real concern. So, in a world where I need lots of space, but I still want to live in a cozy little cottage on the surface, a big old basement is the best choice. Now, I'm building a nice little house that is probably too big to be called a cottage, but probably too small to be considered a proper manor house or mansion. But my basement's going to be quite a bit bigger than you would expect. It won't be crazy like my usual underground base designs, because I'm saving that craziness for the city of Londinium itself, which multiplies my usual compulsive craziness by at least a couple orders of magnitude. This time it will be slightly larger than the footprint of the house itself, and it will extend out under the windmill, because the power generated by the windmill will be used in the basement for resource creation and processing. However, the basement will in fact have a second level below the first, a kind of basement to my basement. And that's because I use storage drawers for my mainline storage, and I prefer to use one drawer or block for each item. And even if I stick to just the basic blocks items, that is potentially a couple hundred or more drawers that I'll need. And that's quite a bit of space. So that is what defines the method to my madness. Well, I will still be digging out the basement itself for a while yet, but once that's done, the building will start and I will need wood. A lot of wood. And even though this is Minecraft and I don't need to wait around 70 to 100 years before a tree's big enough to harvest, I still need to start earlier rather than later and stockpile the wood ahead of time. And yes, I do believe that would be the best choice. So that means I should probably take a break from the digging and go get some saplings and start building my wood supply right now. Or at least soon. Anyway, I'm playing in a steampunky world, and the decor of the time was primarily based on darkly painted or finished woods. And sometimes the stain would be so dark that it would appear to be black. Now, in vanilla Minecraft, the two best choices are spruce and dark oak, and so it's not entirely by accident that the homestead is so close to a dark oak forest. So it's a time for a bit of a field trip to grab some dark oak wood, but more importantly, I need dark oak saplings. Dark oak is a pain to farm without mods. The problem is this. Each leaf block has a 5% chance to drop a sapling, and that's true across all the vanilla trees. However, most vanilla trees can grow from a single sapling, but not dark oak. I need 4 saplings for a single tree. But in vanilla, you can either try to bash all the leaves yourself, which is a long, boring process, or you can wait for them to despawn and pick up the saplings. But getting the required 4 saplings is not a given. In fact, after years of playing, I think it works out to just under 50% or real close to the halfway mark. So I frequently find myself without enough saplings to replant, or at least not enough saplings to replant what I cut down, and ultimately I have to go back to the source. Well, forget that. I mean, once I had rediscovered modded Minecraft, I tried to find a modded solution, and I found several. Now, one of them simply added recipes that let me add a leaf block to a stick, and voila, I have a sapling that matches the leaf block. Now, I have since abandoned that mod because it only covered vanilla trees, but I've replicated that recipe for all the vanilla trees and all of the modded trees from the mod pack, and it's now part of my custom data pack. Now I just need to get one tree up and going, and from there I should be able to have a permanent supply of saplings, and thus my tree farm should never die off. And that's important not just for dark oaks, but all the wood types. As a builder, I like to have the largest and most diverse palette of colors and materials to build from, and wood is always a great choice because it is normally completely renewable. But some tree types are even worse than dark oaks when it comes to sustainability. And one of my most favorite wood types to build with, maybe my absolute favorite, is hellbark from the Biomes of Plenty mod. It's very dark gray in color and almost black. And when combined with mods like the Macaw's series, it gives me some fantastic looking options. But the problem is that hellbark trees grow only on netherrack, and they grow very short, probably no more than 5 log blocks for even the tallest of them, and they can only sprout a handful of leaves, so a large and dependable pool of this resource is pretty much impossible, unless you have a mod to help you make saplings. And I do. So hellbark trees are one of the first things I go looking for once I hit the surface of the nether. All of that also means that I usually have pretty extensive tree farms because I want to actively farm each and every wood type that I find, again, to maximize my options. And that is both good news and bad news for a world like this where I'm using the crate mod. It's good because I can automate all those farms and thus accumulate all of those diverse resources without much effort aside from setting up the automation. However, the bad news is also that I can automate all those farms, and unless you have a mega powerful supercomputer, and I don't, all of that automation is going to be a hard kick to the stomach for my poor old CPU and video card. And no, I have not somehow transported myself to a Caribbean island. That music is probably coming from a hostile mob that is wearing a sophisticated backpack equipped with a jukebox upgrade. And if I play my cards right, I might be able to get it. I don't need or want the jukebox, but I do need and want the additional backpack. Clearly, he wasn't the one.
creepers. Why did it have to be creepers? Just die already, you cabbage-looking jerk.
It wasn't him either. I hope it's a zombie or a skeleton and not another creeper. Oh geez, multiple skeletons and I'm running around in paper mache armor. Oh, and another creeper. Bonus. Not. Take that, you Cabbage Patch Kid from Hades. Okay, Lazy Bones, where are you hiding? I think I saw him come out on the surface and start burning. There he is. Ouch. Hey, why don't you come on up? You'll have more room. Ooh, I think they're practicing their friendly fire. Good.
Turn the music down, you kids! Stay off my lawn!
Okay, it looks like the fun's over. Time to move along. Nothing to see here. The droids I'm looking for aren't down here. Bread. Nice. A gray backpack. Let's check out the contents. Yep, a jukebox, upgrade, a saddle, some string, and some very useful flaxseed. And I'm still bleeding out, apparently. Okay, back to what I came here for in the first place. I need wood. Now, where's the best place to get some? Maybe I should axe this tree. Oh, gosh, I'm still riding high from the battle. Now you know why I'm grabbing all these dark oak leaf blocks so I can make a mess of dark oak saplings. I need a good work song here, though I think the only work song I actually know is I've Been Working on the Railroad, and this has pretty much nothing to do with the railroad. I'm not looking for the finest work song. That's an REM thing. Besides, even if this was the finest work song, it wouldn't be after I got through with it. There have been several attempts at the United Nations to ban my singing, or even attempts at singing on humanitarian grounds to protect my listeners, but they've never gotten it to pass, mostly because of vetoes by the Chinese and the Russians, and not because they even remotely like my singing, but just because doing so annoys pretty much the rest of the world, as does my singing. So there you go. Okay, I got one. And my apologies to Michael Palin and the crew ahead of time. Oh, I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I sleep all night and I work all day. I cut down trees, I eat my lunch, I go to the lava tree. On Wednesdays I go shopping and have buttered scones for tea. Excuse me. So that is probably the first and most likely last time anyone will hear me sing outside of the shower. Anyway, with enough saplings to plant my own forest, it's time to return to the old homestead. I'll need to clear a place to plant the tree, and in anticipation of a long and glorious farming career, I need to set up a little infinite water supply. And you may be scratching your head and wondering how I'll carry the water. I have quite a tidy supply of materials, and that will enable me to carry the water, but not quite how you think I will. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Oops. in these early days of playing in a new world, I have a really hard time remembering what I put into which container. And within a few more days, I will totally lock in on it so that when I start setting up a better and more permanent solution, I'll have a hard time adapting to that, as I would then be locked into the storage model that took me so long to get used to in the first place. It's called getting old, and don't laugh, because someday it'll happen to you too, if you're lucky enough. Okay, do you remember when I said that I'll need to carry water and I have the resources to do it, but not the way you think? Yeah, this is the time for that bit. Yep, wooden buckets are a thing in this world. They're a thing in the real world too, and have been since before we even knew much about metal. Okay, I have a couple of buckets and a dry and relatively barren homestead, so it's time to bring some life to this party with a bit of H2O. And if I remember correctly, the map says that there's somewhere off to the east here, somewhere, almost certainly under the rainbow. Cucumbers. I think it will soon be picking season. Actually, it's spring in the game world, which is not exactly the usual season for fermentation. However, there are members of previous generations of my family that were very well known for getting pickled all year long. Type of oasis. Though as oases, or OSI, go, this one's not very oasis-y. Oh my god. The problem with making up new words is sometimes they can be pretty hard to pronounce. And in case you were wondering, yeah, I do fully realize the irony of going out to get water to bring back to a dry and thirsty landscape, only for it to start pouring rain while I was on my way. Oh, melons, micro melons. Don't mind if I do. You have to be careful not to eat too much melon in a single sitting, because if you do, you might start feeling melancholy. Speaking of melancholy, I think the latency is jealously holding on to my melons. No worry, they should pop up any minute now. Or apparently not. I mean, I was able to open my inventory, and I can't normally do that when the latency is out there latencying. And I didn't see my melons in my inventory either, so apparently they're cast adrift on the currents of time and space. Whoopsie! It looks like I was the one that was adrift on the currents of time and space. But the latency break is over. I'm taking the money and running. Or to be more precise, I'm taking the melons and walking away. To enjoy the fruit of my labor. Home sweet home. Or perhaps home flat and soaking wet home. Either way, I can honestly say that there is no place like it. So let me put this stuff away, and as I do so, I see that I have a growing collection of seeds and an even faster growing collection of dirt. So perhaps now is a good time to lay out those terraced fields. I even have water to keep them cool and irrigated. But having a garden is one of those things that I used to do in real life, but I don't do that anymore. Sometimes I miss it, but back in the day, both sides of my family had plenty of farmers going back generations upon untold generations. However, sparkling urbanite that I am, I live in a townhouse. So visions of good tilled earth and rows of crops and flowers are still possible, but in a dramatically miniaturized version as a large container garden that pretty much took over my balcony. Now, the strawberries in our garden were usually the most productive of the group, but I used to grow tomatoes, peas, onions, chives, dill, garlic, and even some flowers. However, container gardens are, in some ways, harder work than a proper garden. And not just hard work, but a non-trivial amount of time was required to do that work. And even before I spun up this channel, I didn't really have the time or the energy to properly put into it. Then there was also the run-ins with the Homeowners Association, and that is another set of stories for another time. Anyway, I do my gardening in my virtual worlds now. It's not quite the same as the real thing, but is infinitely cleaner, often greener, and in Minecraft in particular, stuff doesn't go bad if you're not around to harvest it. And that's pretty appealing. In fact, I think a lot of people prefer tending virtual gardens. How else do you explain the incredible popularity of games like Harvest Moon, Animal Crossing, or Stardew Valley? And yeah, at one time or another, I was enchanted by each of those. In fact, I got my daughters involved, and we used to all play together. I kind of miss those days, but now that they're in high school and taking some pretty advanced courses, they are thriving academically, but they also have heavy homework loads. And when they do have time for a break, they're often off doing stuff with their friends. So, yeah, as a parent, I have come to that rather painful stage in life where you need to start letting the kids go bit by bit so they can start to lead their own lives. But that's okay. I have all of you with me now. It's not quite the same thing, but it is much, much better than being completely solo. So, thank you for that. So let's see. In this session, I dealt a blow to the cultists and twin spires by dismantling the cells they use to hold the victims that they kidnap, and potentially save myself some iron for when I need to have iron bars for my own projects. I laid out the basic dimensions of the homestead, and I started digging it out, and I am using the material I removed to start laying out terraces for us to grow crops on, even as I say this. I'm now generating dark oak for all my foreseeable lumber needs. I procured a jukebox, which I don't really need or plan to use, and an extra backpack, which I don't really need, but I most definitely plan to use. Next time around, I might take a little field trip to do some recon and check out the local area. Of course, I still have a lot of digging to do, and I have still not decided whether to do some or all of that off camera, or to share each and every step of the way with you, all of you. At the moment, I'm kind of digging having you with me as I work through the grunt work. It's nice to have somebody to chat with, and it makes work go by much faster. Speaking of chatting, I have been seriously thinking of spinning up a Discord channel dedicated to my world builder projects. In fact, I'm leaning heavily toward doing that, and there is probably a good chance that by the time this is released and you're watching it, I will have probably opened up the channel and invited you to check it out. So if you're hearing this, you should check the community page or my website. And if I announce the Discord channel, please go check it out. I would love to hear what you think about my projects and themes. I would also love to hear about your own projects and themes. And in fact, even if the Discord channel's not up, or if you just don't like using Discord, you can still chat with me here in the comments section, and you can tell me all about your projects and themes right there. Something else I wanted to mention, and you may have recently seen or heard that I opened up a Patreon channel. And yeah, I did. The goal of this channel on YouTube has never been to make money, which is perfect because it never has. Not even close. And frankly, that'll never be the goal, or even one of the goals. I do what I do because I enjoy it. It makes me happy. So I will continue to do this, and I will continue to serve it up here and on my website, where you will always be able to enjoy it completely free. However, I've had folks approach me and ask me about things like a Patreon. And while I have no goals or fantasies about this channel ever making $1, and certainly not about the channel replacing my regular job, I'm also not a complete idiot. So if somebody's willing to offer a few bucks to help fuel my caffeine habit, I'd have to be crazy not to let them. And so that's where the Patreon comes in. If you want to help me keep me fueled up for the late nights I work on these videos, by all means, use the Patreon to throw me a few bucks for soda. There's no exclusive content or advantage for a subscription, or actually anything like that. So you already have access to everything here. It is just a tool that I set up because somebody asked. However, you can still help me out big time without spending a single penny. And you're already doing it just by watching my videos. For an added bonus, you can help me out even more by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving comments. And those are the real donations right there. But as I say on late night TV, or as I used to say on late night TV before I started spending my late nights doing this, that's not all. You can also help me out for free by sharing links to my videos, referring my channel to your friends and family, and helping spread the word. I've got a lot of great comments over the past year about folks enjoying my work, and how it's generally friendly, positive, and kind of different, distinctive from what other folks are creating out there. So by all means, help spread the word. When I started this channel, I didn't specifically intend to make a wholesome and positive space. It just kind of naturally turned out that way. Likewise, I don't specifically cater to kids in the audience, but neither do I exclude them, and I like to think that the stuff I have on the channel will be suitable for practically anyone on the planet, and would even be safe to watch at work, school, on the bus, or pretty much anywhere you can get a signal. And my final note before I sign off for now is I'm really excited and serious about possibly spinning up a Let's Play series based on medieval fantasy and or a post-apocalyptic world. I would really love to hear what you think about that, as well as how you like this series in this format. That kind of feedback will go a long way toward shaping the work I do, so please share your opinion, bad or good. I really do want to hear it. And all in all, I think this episode has been a pretty good run. So until next time, I hope this finds you and yours in good health, good spirits, and perhaps a touch of good fortune. Cheers.